Good afternoon and welcome to this second Jean Monnet lecture of the year 2024-25. Today we have the honor and the pleasure to have Professor Alberto Pirni from the Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna of Pisa, Italy. Today Professor Pirni delivered a speech on enforcing climate change sensitive behaviors. This was a very passionate speech and a very participate one. So in asking him few questions, I would like to start from the very beginning. What are these climate change sensitive behaviors? What do we mean by this?
Yes, thank you. First of all, let me thank you for this kind hospitality. It was a wonderful context and also a wonderful research environment to have to do it and to deal with. And today we presented this talk related to the title you just recalled, having in mind that climate change is not an issue among others that we can decide either address or not. Rather, climate change is perhaps the destiny of our time, the destiny of the present and future of our societies. Therefore, the premise and the first step we have to address from the philosophical and moral philosophical point of view is the contribution that I can give as from the first person point of view, meaning what can I do? What can I do is, and trying to reply to this answer, to this issue has to do with the contribution that comes from individuals, and speaking about contribution means speaking about behavior. So in order to have just and only, even if also this is a challenge, having also just and only a sensitive sustainability, sensitive behavior, climate change sensitive behavior means something which is not related to our immediate acting, but also related to the medium and long run of our agency. This was the presupposition.
We as lawyers tend to think of behaviors as imposed from the external, from the law, or from administrative enforcement. As far as I understood, your perspective is rather enforcing behavior starting from the self, from the individual, and the means by which you tend to achieve this is by imitation. What do we mean by imitation, and why is it so important?
Yes, well, first of all, you're right. Prima facie, we are used to consider behaviors as something which can come from an external source. Actually, in moral philosophy, we are used to distinguish between externalism versus internalism sources, meaning in the first sense, in the first case, there is someone in charge for promoting or for asking us to do something. In the other sense, in the other side, it's me. It's up to me to start moving according to a certain direction or having in mind a certain purpose or aim. In both sense, we have to focus, and this was one of the theoretically most challenging point of our talk today. We have to stick our attention on a specific point. The attempt for transforming good reasons into my own reasons. So we have plenty, we have a number of good reasons related to the opportunity to address and to start moving in a certain way in order to try to save environment, try to reduce CO2 emissions, try to limit or postpone the most tremendous effects of climate change. But it's not enough. So those level of knowledge is really relevant, is really in some sense very well supported by strong scientific argumentations. Nonetheless, it's not enough for triggering appropriate behaviors. Our point is to transform good reasons into my own reasons. So reasons that are not just only received from an external source, but they are, let's say, addressed and voiced from within, in a sense. So voiced from our own language, trying to self-trigger climate change sensitive behavior. How to do that? You mentioned the attempt related to imitation. Well, this was one of the topics that I tried to take care of. and why we should imitate, and who is able to be imitated, and why we should imitate her or him. Well, the point is constructing an appropriate theory of imitation. In order to do that, I try to move and to construct hopefully quite clear, and it was very nice also to discuss this with the participants, quadrilemma related to imitation, meaning we have a static or a dynamic imitation, an imitation imitating devoted to imitating recalling behavior, or also to imitating or looking at the result. So static versus dynamic, behavior versus result imitation. Combining these four factors gives shape to a quadrilemma. Orienting our attention over this quadrilemma means to launch an agenda related to recognition. Recognition has to do with the very motivation related to imitating someone. Why I should imitate? In order to be accepted, in order to, or vice versa, in order to avoid public shame. If I not try to replicate in my own view, with my own limitation, but also with my own intrinsically innovative possibilities, behaviors that are in some sense climate change sensitive.
And when we imitate someone else, you said before that we tend to imitate someone who is significant, some other person, some other human being who is significant. What is this significance, otherness that you're building on?
Yeah, the idea of significativity or the meaningful person is a person who is able to construct a model, to be a model, to impose, to embody a model for us, and this has to do with the exemplaristic theories. So theories of example, in which sense, under which limitations, under which characteristic an example is what it is. So why this is an example. We might construct models of virtuous example, we might try to give voice to them models, we can try to construct consensus around those models, and this is the best way for trying to create a kind of social tipping point, meaning not just me, it's not just me or you. We are not just two in pursuing a more stable and more aware climate change behavior, climate change sensitive behavior, but we are trying to construct public evidence in order to be imitated, to be followed, to become point of reference for other possible pattern of agency. This is a matter of, let's say, linking the dots, or connecting individual agents into a more sovereign individualistic, super collectivistic force of agency that for sure has to do with specific and clear context limitation, but in other sense has to find out modus, modalities, languages to be and to become trans-contextual, meaning to be transferred beyond the border of a limited and specific context of interaction.
In front of relatively low level of effectiveness or enforceability of climate change rules, is this that you are proposing an alternative way to promote sufficiently positive behaviors by individuals?
Well, as you perfectly know, as anyone knows, scientists are saying to us, to the largest general people, the same thing from those amount of years. So climate change is happening. Climate change is something which is relevant, vivid, operating, and day by day, year by year, more active thanks or due to the anthropogenic behaviors or anthropogenic activities. Just saying, just presenting, just giving proof of evidence that this is happening, that's enough for addressing adequate countermeasures. We have to, let's say, to block our attention to a kind of no position, saying that this is not enough. Therefore, my strategy is not an alternative, rather it should be or might be understood as a complementary strategy that deserves political attention, social attention, and also that promotes a kind of scalability. Meaning, let's imagine that we are not speaking about you and me as a person, as an individuals or as citizens, but we are speaking about possible groups of policymakers, group of mayors, for example. We touched upon, we addressed also this point. Group of people that might be interested in having a good reputation, or better, to avoid a kind of public shame vis-a-vis their own having done or having avoided addressing some specific social / in that specific case institutional behaviors. We are speaking about this. We are speaking about possible integrative models for triggering appropriate way of acting or counteract. There are no specific measures so far. There are no specific and easy way, easy answers, but there is a super genuine, authentic, transdisciplinary effort and a transdisciplinary attempt for doing this by gathering together law scholars, policymakers, psychological sector, social sector, economic sector, and of course ethics as the disciplines that might just bring to that table piece of cake, piece of theoretical cake, meaning languages, reasons and motivations, point of reference according to which each disciplines might deconstruct and reconstruct their own way for trying to reply to this systemic issue, the systemic expectation for the present and mostly for the future generations.
Thank you so much, Professor Prini. Thanks.
Thanks again to you, Professor Ratti, for this kind of invitation. Thanks to our participants, hoping to have the possibility to keep on going with this common challenge.
Thank you.